Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tech Talk Education. This is Dr. Heldman. In this movie, what I want to do is it's going to be a short movie. I just want to go over some of the terms that we use in Linux in terms of understanding different versions of Linux that are out there. They're called distributions. So I want to go over that and show you a website where you can go where you can examine all of the different Linux distributions that are out there. So this should be a lot of fun, should be super informative. Let's get started. So, here's the thing. Linux came from one person, Linus Torvalds, and then it just exploded outward, and different organizations, people, companies, etc., took this Linux and began to rework it and redo it for their own purposes, some of which were to make money. So there are people that are making money off of Linux. Others that were using it for a specific purpose. For example, if you go and you buy an NVIDIA Jetson Nano device, you will get and you join the NVIDIA Deep Learning Institute, called DLI, and you go through a Jetson Nano Developer Kit course, you're going to get a version of Ubuntu Linux that has been heavily customized just for that course. So this idea of it's open source, it's free and open source software, we can share it and we can modify it. You can download your own version of Linux, modify it, and do what you want to do. I had a student a few years ago who was really into Linux. He just wanted to download Linux, make some modifications, compile it for his own use. And he did. It gave him an A for the class because he demonstrated a great knowledge of Linux. So the thing is, when we have a different version of Linux or different versions of Linux, they're kind of broken out into little camps. I'm not sure how to describe that, except to say that there are differences in these camps. So for example, there's a very high quality Linux distribution called Red Hat. Red Hat was recently purchased by IBM, so it's an affiliate of IBM now. But Red Hat was known for a long time as the version of Linux, this go-to Linux for business. And they really didn't charge for the Linux licensing per se. What they charged for was the support and the training and things like that. But Red Hat's running all over the globe, so it's very, very popular. How can you find out more about all these distributions? They're called distributions. The short term is distro, so we call them distros. And this site, which is clearly one of the most complicated and busy sites on the internet, well, I take that back. I think the busiest site is probably Amazon Web Services, where you're into the console and you're trying to work with AWS. That's a different story, but this is a really fairly complicated site to surf, and there's a lot of good things that happen out of DistroWatch. I like it. I'm not down on it. I'm just saying that, there's a lot to know. Linux has really spread its wings very far. For example, we're looking here at this version called Tails. And Tails is like a Tor type thing, the Onion Router type thing. And it's released by Amnesiac Incognito Live System. It's called Tails, the Amnesiac Incognito Live System. And the thing that I pay attention to is that it's a Debian-based system. And so it's giving you some information about this particular project here. And there are others, like here's one called Rebecca Black OS. It too is Debian-based. So Red Hat is not Debian-based. Red Hat is Red Hat-based. And so one of the things you want to begin to look at is, okay, where did this come from? What family is this coming out of? And I personally really like Debian distros. I think they're pretty cool. But there's a million of them. So let me redirect your attention to page hit ranking here. So this section is down a little bit below the ad, and it's called page hit ranking. And what it's going to do is it's going to show you all of the different Linux distros by their current rank, meaning by their download. They have this HPD star thing. What does it say? It's hits per day. And then they rate them by the number of hits per day that they're counting for these various distros. So the top guy is MX Linux Number 2 is a version called Mint. Mint is a Debian Linux version. I like it a lot. I think your mom or your dad could probably run Linux Mint pretty easily. It's meant to look a lot like Windows, and it does. There's one called Endeavour OS. Here's actual Debian Linux. So this is just flat out native Debian. And then there's Ubuntu, which is Debian. There's Manjaro. Fedora, which is not a Debian-based OS. Pop! OS, which is manufactured by a company here in Denver. They manufacture Linux laptops as well. They're very highly regarded laptops. OpenSUSE is interesting. So OpenSUSE was a German company, and when Novell NetWare went out of business as a networking company, they acquired OpenSUSE, and then somebody acquired NetWare. So OpenSUSE is still around. It's very, very good. And then some of the others I don't know anything about, like Zorin, Catchy OS, this one KDE Neon. So there's a bunch of them. And then if you go down below a little bit, you see that we've got something called FreeBSD. This is actually not a Linux distro, it's a Unix distro. But if we remember that Linux and Unix are close cousins, I would describe Unix as being Linux's older brother. Then you'll have the right idea. And BSD stands for Berkeley Systems Division. They went bankrupt. Their Unix product became open source. FreeBSD is all over the planet. It's used. It's worth your while to dig into it and see what it's like. Here's another very popular one, Kali. I love Kali. I'm going to do some classes for you on Kali. This is a cybersecurity distro, so it has a couple of hundred cybersecurity tools on it. So you get the idea. And then there's stuff called Kubuntu for a different sort of Ubuntu distro. And there's Puppy Linux, and you got the idea. So there's a million of these things, and you can check them all out. That's the concept. Here's another one. Parrot is a very well-known cybersecurity distro as well. Now, there's one called Arch Linux, which is all command line Linux. There's all these different people that have all of these different ideas about Linux. I want a desktop environment. I want a GUI. I don't want to have to issue commands. Others are like, hey, I'd like to have it emulate the Mac, and so forth. So there's a lot going on. Linux is a big, big thing, and there's a lot to know about it. Now, suppose that you wanted to look into like MX Linux. What I would do is I would click this link over here. And what you're going to do is get a page that is dedicated to MX Linux here. And you come down here and you look, and you can get some information about it. So it comes out of Greece, and it is a Debian Linux. And it uses ARM processors or i686, x86 64. So it's telling you that it'll run on anything that will run Windows. The ARM processor is pretty cool. Those are used in your cell phone, but now they're starting to be moved into laptops and tablets. It has 3 desktops. Now this is where you want to really begin to pay attention. You want to know what it's based on. So what is it based on? It's based on Debian, which is great. I love Debian. We have a Fluxbox desktop, a KDE Plasma desktop, and a thing called XFCE. And XFCE is real tiny, so it's really brisk and robust. So I don't know what happens if you click these. You can click this and get a feel for what the desktop looks like, but you don't know exactly what the desktop interface is that it's using right here. So you have to be concerned about, okay, which one is this using? And I don't know if it's the far left one, the Fluxbox, or which one this is using. So another thing that you can do is you can click each one of these, and it will tell you and give you a little bit more information about it. Now, my problem with this is that it really doesn't show the desktop. So you can't really see the desktop and have it tell you what it is that it's doing here. So it's a little misleading, I think. So if you click like KDE Plasma, it's not going to show you what the Plasma desktop looks like. It's giving you other stuff that you can begin to surf for and find out more information about it. So here's the secret. The secret would be, well, I want to mess around with MX Linux. I'm going to download it. Then that's where you pick your flavor. And then you install it inside Oracle VirtualBox. That's the ideal way to test these different Linux distros. Make up your mind, do you like this or not? If you don't like it, just throw it away. Just get rid of it and go on to the next Linux distro. And it's a really good way for you to just compare these different distros and see what you like about them and make sense about them. So I think I can go back. There's really not a home button. Yeah, there is. I'll go back there. If I go down here, one of my favorites is Mint. I was talking to you about that before. And Linux Mint looks very, very similar to Windows 10. And it's a Debian environment. It comes out of Ubuntu long-term storage. Its origin is Ireland. And you have, again, 3 desktops. Well, these are called Cinnamon and Mate, and then XFCE. And XFCE you can think of, if you can think about it, as being very light and crisp. It's a nice little environment that you would use on like a Raspberry Pi. Let's go up and look at a couple more here. So what is this Endeavour OS thing? Well, let's take a look at that. Oh, this uses Arch Linux, which is a different flavor of Linux. Now, what that means then is that the commands might not be the same. For example, suppose that we're using Ubuntu, Debian, Kali, Mint, etc. And we want to install a package. We would type in sudo apt install package name. Used to be that you would type in sudo apt-get install package name, but the -get has been dropped in recent versions of Debian Linux. That's not the case in Red Hat. You wouldn't use sudo apt. You would use sudo yum, Y-U-M. So there are very slight variations in the differences in these different distros that you're going to have to pay attention to. And if you want to have fun, really, honestly, it's a lot of fun to download these things and just install them, see how they work. You're like, yeah, I don't like those. I'm just going to throw that one away. Or, wow, I really like that one. Ooh, my grandma could probably learn how to use that. That's sort of an idea. And look at here. So you have a bunch of choices with this guy, Endeavour OS. You have Budgie. There's Cinnamon again. GNOME, which is what Ubuntu uses. A thing called i3, KDE Plasma, LXQT, Mate, and XFCE. So you have all of these different desktop environments that you can install and see how you like playing around with this thing. So you might have to do 4 or 5 installs just to see which desktop you like. Now there is a way to invoke other desktops. That's beyond the status of this particular video, but there is a way to invoke and install other desktops. So it is possible, like when you're in this native desktop here, which I assume is the Budgie, I assume the far left one is the Budgie one, that you can install, for example, Cinnamon and see how it works. Now, don't hold me to that because I'm sure that different distros do different things, but that's a good way of finding out how to make these things work as well. Now let's go look real quickly at DistroWatch. I want to show you this POP3. Now this thing has really gotten some notoriety of late. And the reason it's interesting is because it is a combination of an OS that looks very similar to Windows 11 or perhaps the Mac. And it uses Ubuntu and Debian, which I think is awesome because if I learn one tool set, I have a bunch of different distros which are available to me. Its origin is in the US. And they're based in Denver here, and they sell laptops. So that you can buy a laptop with POP installed right on it. And it gets a lot of great reviews. So it gets some really good reviews. Now suppose that you wanted to look some more at, say, POP, for example. So you're coming down here and it's telling you, okay, here, where can I get this? So here's my home page, System72.6. Here's the documentation for it. Now, I don't know if you know what a mirror is. So a mirror is a server that's been set up to allow you to download. And the idea is that if I live in the Netherlands, I want a mirror that's probably in the Netherlands or very close to me somewhere at least. So the idea of picking a mirror is picking the closest place to you where you can download the software and install it. There's a bug tracker, and then they're on Reddit. People talk a lot about Reddit. And then there's some other stuff going on here. So let's go. I'm going to right click and select Open Link in New Tab. and I just want to show you what one of these websites would look like. This is System 76. They're very well known. They've gotten very popular. And you can come in here and download the Pop! OS and see what you think of it. And they tell you what it's about. And then here's the hardware. You can buy the hardware that comes with the Pop! OS on it. So that's pretty cool. What would a device cost me? This symbol here, by the way, it took me a long time to figure out that this actually means it's going to launch in a new page, I think. Yep, it does. And you can see that you can buy a Meerkat here. It has 16 tera storage, so it's a NAS. 12 cores, 16 threads, 13 gen Intel. This thing's a beast. It's meant to be a NAS. And if you wanted to design it and buy it, we can go see what price it's going to cost us for this thing. And let's see, I get the POP3 with disk encryption, or I could get Ubuntu 22.04, one of the two. And there's its price, $549. So I just wanted to show you how DistroWatch works. This is going to be your go-to site to find out more about all of the different distros of Linux. It's very comprehensive, and it is a little bit easy to use, but it's so loaded with data that it looks really busy initially. So I would urge you to go out here and investigate distrowatch.com. Maybe sign up for a weekly report on what's going on with these guys, and give it a try and see what you think. Okay, that's all I got. Talk to you in the next movie. Have a great day. Thank you for listening. Please share this with your friends and subscribe and view. Please feel free to leave comments. I've had some people start to leave comments. Really appreciate that. Tell your friends about this site. Next time, we're going to get back into the weeds with some more heavier duty Linux command. Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye.